What's up, guys? Welcome to the second episode of Red&Gold. And today I'm joined by a very special guest, once again, Ben Meyerson. So, how are you doing today, Ben?
I'm doing excellent. I was telling you a little bit about my woes with FSU football, the struggle. Kind of doing two opposite ends of the spectrum with my two football teams. One undefeated, one well, let's just say that they haven't been doing so great. But I'm excited to talk about 49ers. It's been an interesting week. They got a big game this week. I'm really excited. It's going to be on Sunday Night Football. Seems like one of the games of the week, including maybe some other NFC West opponents too. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm really pumped. What about you? What have you been thinking about the 49ers this week, Amin?
Damn, I'm happy Niners are 2-0. Win is a win, obviously. We won against the Eagles, but the Rams and the Cardinals and the Seahawks, obviously, but they've been looking good.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Seahawks did lose, but all these other NFC West teams are looking, if not better, if not equivalently as good as we are. So it's gonna be pretty fun to see how the NFC West does this year.
Oh, for sure, man. And obviously we got a great Packers 49ers matchup coming up. That should be a lot of fun. I love watching Aaron Rodgers, so getting to watch a whole game with Aaron Rodgers, I'm super excited for. Some of these players, some of these teams get mixed in between the red zone and the Sunday afternoon slate. So I'm excited that we'll get to watch and focus in on Aaron Rodgers. And you know what? We'll get to watch and focus in on this 49ers team on a national stage where they're not just going to be put into this 1 o'clock window with all these other games, all these other teams. So they'll be full front and center for everybody. And yeah, I'm really interested to see if Trey Lance is going to play. This is an exciting time to be a 49ers fan.
Yeah, well, speaking of Trey Lance,
Oh
let's
yeah.
talk about him real quick. Starting off with the pros and cons of starting Trey
Hmm.
Lance. Now, obviously, we know Trey Lance isn't the starter. But let's say Jimmy does get hurt or Jimmy plays bad and Trey Lance eventually becomes the start of the season. What do you think are the pros and cons of starting Trey Lance?
I think the pros are pretty obvious. He adds a dynamic to the run game that just isn't there right now. Everyone's talked about it, all off season. Anytime you bring up Trey Lance, it's that key phrase 11 on 11 football. And it is really going to change the game for the 49ers and for Kyle Shanahan. And I think, with Kyle's run design, with how amazing he is, how gorgeous that run game he designs is, I think adding Trey Lance into that, it's only going to make it harder for defensive coordinators to deal with. Kyle Shanahan is so much about motion, misdirection, window dressing. And when you add someone like Trey Lance to that equation, I think it's going to be one of the best offenses the NFL has ever seen. And honestly, they're in terms of the other pros, in terms of the passing game, Trey Lance is going to offer big explosive plays down the field, outside the numbers, and whereas Jimmy Garoppolo comparatively, he when he makes a bad pass, I think they're more prone to get intercepted because they're in the area of defenders, right? It might be going over a defender, he might miss someone, and the defender might be running right in front of the ball. But with Trey Lance, if he's missing someone, it's probably because he's overthrowing them. So I think there's kind of less risk associated with Trey Lance, even though there's still some risk, right? I think they all have their pros and cons, but let's talk about the cons of Trey Lance really quick because there are cons. I don't want to just be overtly positive with this. I think some of the cons, or maybe even not cons, concerns you have of playing Trey Lance right away is he going to be able to operate the offense, make those quick throws that we see Jimmy Garoppolo make so excellently. And, a big reason I think they haven't handed the reins over to him yet is because they're not fully confident in him to make those passes down in and down out. And right now, even though Jimmy has had some suspect moments, missing guys behind the line of scrimmage, right? I think overall Jimmy Garoppolo's played pretty excellent from what you've asked of him. So I think Trey Lance is really going to struggle with those over the middle throws, those intermediate throws, and um, I I think another thing I really worry about with him is how accurate is he going to be behind the line of scrimmage, around the line of scrimmage, just within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage, because that's like I keep saying is the area that Jimmy Garoppolo is proficient in. It's the area he's the best in. So they're kind of two sides of the coin, Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo. They're kind of opposite ends of the spectrum. Where Jimmy's weaknesses are is where Trey Lance's strengths are. Where Trey Lance's weaknesses are is where Jimmy Garoppolo's strengths are. So I think it's really tough. But yeah, in terms of the pros and cons for Trey, that's what I would say. It's that you get those big explosive plays, you get that run game, but then you got to worry about over the middle, just making the simple throws and just checking the ball down. And also, honestly, I think Trey Lance, something I saw from him in the preseason, and maybe this was just a preseason thing or the instruction of Kyle Shanahan, he wasn't willing to go out and use his body when he had the room to run. When the passes he had broke down and there wasn't anything left on the field, he would just get sacked, or he would wait too long, and then maybe he tried to run around a little bit and he just get back to the line of scrimmage. There's a lot of that. Whereas if Trey Lance has the lane, he should just take that. He should take it and run, and he should be running downfield, running people over. So that's not a con of Trey Lance, but I want to see him do much better and be much more aggressive when he does have those running lanes open. Be willing to use your body, because it is such an advantage for Trey. So, whereas with Jimmy Garoppolo, you see him only running, 1, 2, 3 yards when he does get past the line of scrimmage. You saw it a few times in this Eagles game, right? You saw him get 7, 8 yards that one time. Trey Lance is going to be getting 15, yards every single play that happens, 25 yards, 35 yards even. There's potential for bigger explosive plays. So I think Trey Lance just opens the offense up, and it makes it much harder to scheme for a quarterback like that.
Yep. I mean, for me, there's more pros of starting Trey Lance than there is cons. Now, obviously, you add another dimension to the offense and also the run game when you have Trey Lance. It helps the run game a lot when you have Trey Lance. And also, he can extend plays, right? Because he is mobile, where Jimmy necessarily can't do that. He's doing a little bit this year, but he can't do it. Like, he can't give you 10 yards in a run. I looked at his games last night. He had 11 carries and 20 yards. He had like 1.8 yards per carry. And the majority of those were QB sneaks. It wasn't like he was running it and extending plays like Lamar or like Russ. They were just majority of them were QB sneaks.
Yeah, and you can't hold that against Jimmy either. People will point to the yards per attempt or whatever. He's doing what they're asking of him. He's getting those QB sneaks. He's getting those 2 yards are much more valuable than the 5 he's getting by just running on 3rd and 15, right? So those 1 to 2 yards that Jimmy was getting, super valuable. And listen, for all that we've been critical of Jimmy Garoppolo for, this year more than ever, he looks super comfortable and he looks willing to use his body and throw it around a little. I mean, you don't think of Jimmy Garoppolo as that typical, type of guy to use his body in that sort of way, but he seems much more, what's the word? He's protecting himself less than he used to. I mean, right? He's not just sitting back there and letting the pressure come to him. He's really, this is not pre-recorded.
It's not pre-recorded.
He does a really good job.
I mean, I will say, like, some of the cons though, right? We don't know how well he's gonna run the offense, and one major con of starting Trey Lance is that we don't know if he's gonna struggle. We don't know if he can win us games, right? Because that's pretty much the majority of people's concern with Trey Lance, right? Can he win us games? Because we all know Jimmy can win us games, right? Because we've already seen the record. We know the record. And like, whenever I speak to my uncles and just my family members, like, yo, Jimmy can win games. We don't know if Trey can win games, right?
No. I mean, you know what you should tell those same people is Trey Lance is undefeated. He's 2-0, baby. So he's got that 100% winning record. But no, seriously, the thing with Trey, there is real downside though to potentially starting Trey. That's the thing I think we need to be more vocal about, is that if the 49ers were to start Trey Lance and it were to go wrong, that's when things get really bad. I mean, because imagine they start Trey Lance for the next 3 games and they go 0-3. Now the entire locker room hates him. The fan base thinks he's a bust. I know we all wanted them to start Trey Lance early on, but there is something so delicate about this situation that the 49ers are in, and they create it for themselves. And honestly, I mean, kind of been thinking this recently. I haven't had the willingness to say it yet, but it doesn't seem like the 49ers had much, if any, vision when they drafted Trey Lance. It seems more like they were trying to find an answer at quarterback. They looked at Matthew Stafford. They looked at Sam Darnold. They looked at almost every available quarterback, Deshaun Watson, right? But with the whole Trey Lance thing, they kind of just they happened upon him. And the way they structured their team too by signing all these veterans back, this was clearly never their number one plan, and this wasn't their intention. So that's where I have some worry with the 49ers planning, right? It doesn't seem like they have any vision, and because of that, they're not planning this out well, at least in my opinion. I think it's tough to put a starter in front of him like Jimmy Garoppolo and then come in and say, hey, no, you should be winning the job right away, when the entire team believes in Jimmy Garoppolo, and the entire team is still talking about the fact that, 2019 happens, we went to the Super Bowl with them. I see people tweeting about it every single day. So imagine how those guys in the locker room feel. That's the tough part about this situation, is that you have a guy so beloved by his team and so beloved by the locker room that you can't just hand the reins over to Trey Lance, even though he's perceived as more talented, he has more physical gifts than him. The fact is that you can show everything, in practice, in preseason, all of that. Until you get into a regular season and actually prove you're better than Jimmy Garoppolo, there's always going to be doubters. So by just inserting him right away, like we all wanted him to do, you could have been causing more problems, and you could have been fast tracking Trey Lance well before you needed to. That's the thing, is if you fast track him too early, you play him, and then you start talking about Trey Lance being a bust because you played him before you needed to. So it's a delicate situation. I mean, for sure.
Yeah.
And, I don't know what the right answer to any of this is about playing Trey Lance, when they should, when they shouldn't. It's tough, and I think Kyle Shanahan's in a tough position.
Yeah, I will say though, right? Like, obviously, the locker room, if he doesn't succeed, right, it would be a problem with the locker room, because the locker room obviously loves Jimmy. Jimmy's winning games for them. But let's say Trey Lance does come out and he does win games, right? Then I don't think the locker room would be like, yo, if Jimmy can win his games, if Lance is winning his games, it doesn't really matter who's that quarterback as long as we're winning games. And I think, right, it's one of those things. But if Lance isn't winning games, then it's a problem with the locker room, it's a problem with the fans. But here's the thing, right? If obviously Niners fans are very passionate, obviously, about their team and winning and their quarterback situation. I remember when Colin Kaepernick and Blaine Gabbert were the quarterback. Blaine Gabbert struggled, Kaepernick, right? So obviously, if you put Trey in and Trey's not playing well, then obviously they might chant for Jimmy to come back, and etc. Right? But that's why I kind of like what Bill Belichick did. Right? You take Bill Belichick's situation. He has Mac Jones and Cam Newton. Mac Jones, obviously, Cam Newton, he had COVID. Mac Jones was playing amazing in practice, amazing in preseason. He gets a starting job, but instead of keeping Cam Newton on the roster, he cuts Cam Newton. So he basically eliminates that problem of, if Mac Jones doesn't play well, then we don't have that problem with the fans. We don't have that problem with, then people just, it's rookie struggle. He's going to get better over time. It's not one of those things, put in Cam, take out. We don't want Mac Jones to be the starter. Mac Jones doing horrible, put in Cam. He eliminated that problem completely. That's one thing where, like, if the Niners did that, it would be a whole different situation. You could start Lance, and if Niners fans, whoever the delusional Niners fans, he's a bust, fine. But if you eliminate that whole situation, that whole problem of putting Jimmy because Jimmy wins his games and Lance is not playing well, or one of those types of situations.
Yeah, the problem with that is that the 49ers already had Jimmy Garoppolo, right? And if they had gotten rid of him and Trey didn't succeed, well, then what would the locker room think? I mean, they would be like, well, these guys don't, this organization doesn't know what they're doing. They don't have any they didn't execute this well. So I think because of the specific situation the 49ers put themselves in, and listen, this isn't, anyone else's fault. This is the 49ers' own fault that they're in this situation. But the fact of the matter is that because of all the circumstances of Jimmy Garoppolo and where they were with him and how the team felt about him and everything that had happened and the fact that he had been injured so much, there's always this intrigue with Jimmy Garoppolo. And the fact that people had seen him succeed and the team had seen him succeed before, it's just, you can't let go of a guy that easily. And I think because of the environment that the 49ers create, this family environment that they talk so much about, being accountable, all this stuff, right? because of the environment that they've created, you can't just cut Jimmy Garoppolo, at the drop of a hat. That's the difference between them and Bill Belichick, is because they have created such a family environment where there's certain people in the inner circle. You can't be inconsistent with that. And if you did just straight up cut Jimmy Garoppolo in the offseason, like I pleaded for them to do many times, then you really lose your players' faith on your team, right? They don't you lose the guys in the locker room. So I think the way the situation is played out is perfect in that you need Jimmy Garoppolo to fail in order for Trey Lance to become the starter. You just can't bench Jimmy just to bench Jimmy. He actually has to go out and be the reason that they're going to bench him for Trey Lance. Then the team can't argue anything because of Jimmy's play, right? If Jimmy goes out and does it himself, that's the way you got to play Trey Lance. I just don't think you can full on start him any other way, unfortunately.
Or if Jimmy gets injured, right? Because even if
That
Jimmy's
too.
playing good and Jimmy gets hurt, then obviously you're starting Lance. You're not starting. I don't even know who else they have at quarterback. They cut Rosen and they cut Sudfeld, so I don't know who else you're playing at
Hey,
quarterback.
Sudfeld's on the practice squad, so it's Sudfeld season.
Oh, Sudfeld is on the practice squad. Well, I did not know about that. I thought he was cut. But for me, honestly, it's just that with Trey Lance, is that he just has so many skills and assets that Jimmy doesn't have. And obviously, yes, you do. Yes, you did say right that with Jimmy, obviously in the intermediate game, he's not that good. But for me, it's like he's gonna get better by getting those game reps and he plays. He's gonna get better at
Oh,
doing
for
those
sure.
things, right? You putting him and making him hold Jimmy Garoppolo's clipboard, that's not gonna get him better and get him, feel confident and get him into rhythm. No, that's not gonna
No,
improve anything. It's gonna just make him sit on the sideline. That's not gonna help him at all whatsoever. So that's
no.
my thing with Trey Lance. Like, if you give him at least some sort of reps, even in games that Jimmy's playing, right? Give him some sort of reps so that he gets in the rhythm, or he's not where like you throw him in a game against Seattle because Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt, and you throw him into a game and you're like, bro, Lance, you gotta, win games. You gotta play. You gotta win us games like Jimmy Garoppolo does. Like, you don't have to throw him into the fire. Where instead, if you give him some sort of reps, or some sort of just even like one snap or two snaps, three snaps in a game, or in a couple in 2 quarters, right? Give him
Hey, he
some
doesn't
sort of
have to
reps.
throw the ball. Just let him run the ball, right?
Yeah, just give him some sort of reps.
I agree with that for sure.
Well, moving on to the next topic. Moving on to another quarterback in Jimmy G.
Oh, yeah.
Why Jimmy Garoppolo isn't throwing the ball to Brandon Ayuk? Like, what is up with that? Like, he only had one catch for 6 yards. I mean, I don't have Brandon Ayuk on my fantasy team, but I'm glad I don't
Oh,
have Brandon Ayuk on my fantasy team, because I know the people that do have him on his fantasy team are not happy with Brandon Ayuk.
I'm one of those people. I mean, I'm very much not happy with the situation.
You have him on you
But
have him on your fantasy team?
I have him on one fantasy team. I have Debo on another, so it's okay. But
Uh,
I'll listen. It's a tough situation with Ayuk because he, in terms of snaps, I believe he was second after that game. He finished with 38 snaps. Debo finished with 52. Trent Sherfield was the next wide receiver down at, I want to say, 24 snaps. So clearly Ayuk is wide receiver too, and there were routes for him to play. I think he played like 20 something passing down. Might have been in the teens. He played a significant amount of passing downs is the point. And Jimmy Garoppolo just isn't the type of quarterback who works well with Brandon Ayuk. With Ayuk is really successful and does. I think that's the problem, is because they're not getting any deep shots to Ayuk, and that's his bread and butter. Um, he's just not able to do what you want him to do. And I think part of this is maybe game plan, but I don't know. Jimmy Garoppolo isn't targeting him much, but it's also not something that's very surprising because we didn't really see Jimmy Garoppolo play with Brandon Ayuk a lot last year. Maybe that's starting to rub off now. They only played like 2 or 3 games together total last season. So I don't know what to think about this Brandon Ayuk situation, honestly. It's strange. I think there's something going on behind the scenes we'll learn about further down the line, but I'd like to think that maybe they just haven't called Brandon Ayuk's number enough, like they haven't called George Kittle's number. And I think more into the season, they're gonna have to rely on Brandon Ayuk because they're gonna run into games where teams just start figuring out how to stop Debo, and they're going to game plan around stopping Debo. And the fact is that Ayuk is gonna have to get some targets if they want the entire offense to be successful. So you gotta find a way to get Brandon Ayuk involved, even if it's jet sweeps, end arounds, do whatever
Yeah.
you have to. But I don't know. It's a very strange situation to not be using the guy who's probably your third best pass catcher. So yeah, I don't really know what to think of it. It's a very strange situation, and honestly, I'm of the opinion that we should just let this play out. Have them play a few more teams who aren't quite as bad as the Eagles and the Lions, and then maybe we'll get a better understanding of where Ayuk's at. And who knows, maybe if Trey Lance is playing more and Trey Lance is throwing him the ball more, well, that just might be how the offense is divvying out. And the fact is that Jimmy Garoppolo just isn't a quarterback who's really made for Brandon Ayuk's skill set.
For me, it's kind of part of me. I think it's game plan, but I also think it's also because of chemistry, right? He has the chemistry with Deebo Samuel because he played a bunch of games with Deebo Samuel. That Super Bowl, even that Super Bowl, he played with Deebo Samuel. With Brandon Ayuk, majority of those games last year, it wasn't with Jimmy Garoppolo understanding. It was either with Nick Mullins or with C.J. Beathard. So as much as I know part of it is game plan, I also think it's because of that chemistry, because he doesn't have that chemistry with Brandon Ayuk yet. He has that chemistry with Deebo, which obviously Deebo was popping off. And also George Kittle, right? George Kittle's not necessarily, he doesn't have chemistry with Jimmy Garoppolo, but Deebo Samuel, he's just targeting Deebo Samuel more this season than he is with George Kittle. I just think mainly outside of the game plan, I just think it's more chemistry because he just doesn't have that chemistry with Brandon Ayuk like he does with Deebo Samuel and George Kittle.
Yeah, no, for sure. I absolutely agree with you. I think it's pretty clear he doesn't have that chemistry.
Well, before we jump into the next topic, the notorious GAV has a question for us. Wait. I might have clicked on the wrong one. Give me a minute. Okay, I got it. I mean, the dream. Do you and Ben agree with playing Kyle Juszczyk on special teams?
I'm fine with it. Quite honestly, I saw this comment earlier. I think they don't use Juszczyk enough in the offense, so why not use him on special? And honestly, he is a very good special teams player, so I think they should use him. Maybe just not every time, though. Do it in and out.
Yep. I don't think he should play on special teams. For me, it's just one of those things where Kyle Juszczyk is so essential to our run game that if he gets hurt, that's kind of like one of my main issues, right? It's not one of those things where I don't think Kyle Juszczyk can play special teams. I don't think it's just one of those things where our team is just so injury prone, and losing a guy like Kyle Juszczyk is gonna hurt us a lot. Because now we obviously know how good of George Kittle is as a blocker, but Kyle Juszczyk is one of the most important parts of the run game. If you look at, I think it was last year, some of the games that Kyle Juszczyk missed, our run game wasn't as efficient as it was when Kyle Juszczyk is playing at when he is as a fullback. And we have the best fullback in football, right? But we use the fullback and utilize the fullback position more than majority of the teams in the league do. And I mean, it's just one of those things where if Kyle Juszczyk gets hurt, we're screwed in our run game. Basically, what you're gonna, especially if Jimmy Garoppolo is the quarterback, because Jimmy Garoppolo, we don't make Jimmy Garoppolo throw the ball like 30, 40 times and throw for 500 yards. No, Jimmy G might throw for 20 to 30 passes a game, and he'll have like 100 yards, something like that. The run game is essential to our team, and losing Juice completely, like the run game would not be as good. And also we already lost Mostert, right? So obviously our starting running back isn't there. You lose Juice on top of it if he gets hurt in special teams, whether that might be, whatever, if Juice gets hurt in special teams. That's going to be huge loss for a run game, and that's going to be huge loss for Jimmy G in general, because we can't make Jimmy G throw the ball 30, 40 times. He's not going to be good he's not going to do good throwing the ball 30, 40 times because he just hasn't done it in his entire career. He hasn't thrown the ball maybe more than 35 times in a game in his entire career. He just hasn't.
Yeah, so yeah, you gotta have Juice for sure.
You definitely gotta have Juice. Appreciate the question, Gavin. I just gotta get a quick shout out to the chat real quick. Shout out Barry of Baller. Go check out his channel. If you haven't subscribed to his channel already, go subscribe to his channel. He's at 469 subscribers, so go get him to 470. Go get him to 500 subscribers. Go check out his channel. Same thing goes for SGA Sports Talk. If you don't know Shardal, he's a
Hey, what's up, Shardal? Shout out to Shardol. Shout out to Team Great America. I see you, Shardol.
Yep, go subscribe to Shardol's channel. You know, Gavin's also a part of the SGA Sports Talk team. And also, big play Slay. I know he's not he's not a Niners fan, he's an Eagles fan. But go check out his channel. You know, go show him some love also. But moving on to the next topic. Today, the 49ers signed another running back, Chris Thompson, to the practice squad. So what's your initial reaction?
Well, first off, they signed a Seminole, so I'm happy about that. But no, Chris Thompson, he's an okay running back. He's a decent he's a very good pass catching running back, actually. In Jacksonville, he had some games last year, but he didn't beat out James Robinson, so he's clearly not quite the guy he was 4 or 5 years ago. But the 49ers are desperate right now, and they need to replace that third down pass catching back. So if Chris Thompson can come in and do that, I think that's awesome for them. But the 49ers might have to start looking to trade for a running back or something. I mean, really, it's getting dire for them.
Yep. I feel like this is not one of those. It's a desperation move. It's not one of those things where they have to have it. It's not like one of those things where he's a wanted running back around the league. No, it's a desperation move. You really need a running back. Obviously, Sermon, he's out for. I think he had a concussion in the Eagles game. Now we know Mostert's already injured. We know Jeff Wilson isn't going to be back until November, late October, beginning November. So Jeff Wilson, also a secondary running back, he's also injured. And then on top of Jeff Wilson being injured, Elijah Mitchell's also injured. Last week we had this thing where is Elijah Mitchell? Can Elijah Mitchell be the answer for the Niners? And he's out with a shoulder injury, and he didn't even practice today. So hopefully he's questionable for Sunday. But we're really desperate at running back. And with the Niners, we know the Niners love to run the ball. That's my brother, if anybody's wondering. Give me a minute. Okay, I'm back. But it's just one of those things where it's a desperation move, right? It's not one of those guys that you need, but it's a desperation move.
For sure. Desperation move. They don't have options right now. They need anyone.
Yeah, they really do. And they also signed another running back yesterday, former XFL star Jaquez Patrick.
Another former FSU guy, actually, 2 former FSU running backs. I actually really like this guy when he was at FSU. I thought he ran really well. He played well. He was just Dalvin Cook's backup the entire time, so he was stuck behind him. But I mean, he's an interesting running back. He's a big body. I know that for sure. He's going to be the biggest guy in the room probably. So he's interesting, and if the 49ers can make a star out of him, well, hey, I'm happy, man. But again, this feels like one of those moves where they're just going after a running back and hoping something sticks. And I will say, if there's any position you can do this at in the NFL, this is the position to do it. You just keep trying for different, just plug and play different running backs. And especially with the 49ers run scheme, the way their run blocking is, they should be able to plug and play a lot of guys. And I think, honestly, Jaquez Patrick is one of those types of guys. I really liked him at FSU. So I think, I think he's interesting. I want to see if he's going to be on the team and what he's going to look like if he does play. But again, just want to remind everyone, he's big back, was backing up Dalvin FSU, but when he did get his opportunity, he could make some noise. So I do really like him. I want to see what he looks like against a quality or in a quality run scheme behind a quality offensive line. And hey, the Packers are a good team to run against, so if they can get him up from the practice squad and they get him signed for the game, I'll be interested to see, man. I really do. I guess out of all these signings, this is the one that stuck out to me the most because this is still a relatively young guy. Chris Thompson's a little over the hill at this point, so I do like Jaquez Patrick for sure.
Yep, obviously it's also another desperation move, right? Same thing with the sign Chris Thompson. It's a desperation move because you have so many injured running backs. But I want to see how he turns out. I want to see if he's going to get any, snaps against the Packers, and I want to see how well he does. Hopefully he does, because honestly, I would really need any running back that can do well for us. Now, with Kyle Shanahan, one of those things with Kyle Shanahan, you don't necessarily need an elite running back. You could plug in whoever. So I really want to see how well Jaquez Patrick does if he gets any snaps on Sunday or, next week against Seattle. I think we're playing Seattle. I want to see how well he does if he gets any snaps. But for me, it's also just another desperation move. It's just another desperation move for Niners to get some sort of running back on the team. Hopefully he does do well for us, but it's just a desperation move. Same thing with the Chris Thompson signing.
For sure.
Moving on to the next topic is why aren't the 49ers using George Kittle as much? Like I have him in fantasy and George Kittle is disappointing me a lot. Like he had like 5 fantasy points for me last week. Like I expected him to give me like 100-yard games, and he had like 5 points for me with like 4 receptions and 17 yards. Like
Yeah.
what's up with George Kittle? Why aren't the 49ers
So,
using George Kittle as much?
so I'll say
He's
this.
the wait before I let you speak. He's the highest paid decoy right now. As of right now, he's the highest paid decoy, getting paid. I think $70 million. He's the highest paid decoy as of right now.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about Kittle right now. With him, if you look at all the deep analytics statistics, he's running as many routes as Deebo Samuel. He's just not being targeted the same as he is. And maybe that's a Jimmy Garoppolo thing. I don't know. It's very strange how they've been using George Kittle. And I just think it's I think part of it is probably game planning against certain teams, certain matchups. I think the other part of it too is Deebo Samuel's been doing so well. You just have to keep force feeding him the ball all you can. So I feel like it's a little, you ride the hot hand situation. And with Deebo, he's been so hot lately, you just can't go anywhere else, I think. And with Kittle, they'll use him. He'll have his big games. He'll get rolling soon. And while, he might not be getting as many catches as fantasy owners might like, George Kittle's impact on the 49ers is felt for sure. His impact on that running game, his run blocking, it's helping the Niners out a ton. He's a huge part of that. So yeah, he's is he going to get more catches soon? I believe so for sure. And I think once teams do start to key in on Deebo and try and eliminate him, they'll go to Kittle, they'll go to Ayuk more. But we're 2 games into the season. I don't want to overreact to anything. So let's see how it plays out this week.
Yep. Now, obviously, Debo is hot, right? Debo is hot right now. He's leading the NFL in receiving yards. I thought I would never say that in my life because Debo's usually injured. I never thought I would say Debo is leading the NFL in receiving yards. I just never thought I would say that. But, I mean, it's just that Debo's so hot right now that I don't think they're going to, I don't think Jimmy's targeting George Kittle as much because Debo is obviously, he's balling out right now. But I definitely think George Kittle's going to get some more catches later on in the game. Now, George Kittle still has a huge impact for our team. As much as I would love for him to get me 20 fantasy points, 30 fantasy points, but George Kittle is definitely impacting our team in a huge way, especially in the run game. Without him, also same thing with Juice, right? Without him and Juice, the run game would not be as good. If not, it would not be a top 5, top 10 run game in the league. So without George Kittle, I'm just happy with George Kittle as his run game and what he's doing in the run game. But I would definitely like to see George Kittle get some more passes. I really would.
I would too, for sure. They need to get him more involved.
Yeah, they definitely do. Moving on to the next topic is, are Jimmy Ward and Jaquaski Tart the best safety duo in the NFL? Yes or no? Why? Yes, no, why?
I would say because they're both not healthy all the time, I don't think you can say they're the best duo. I think when they're both healthy, if they're not the best duo in the league, they're one of the top 2 or 3 duos, if not top 4, top 5. So the only reason I'm not going to say they're the best is because they are hurt so often. Tart has so many injuries. Jimmy Ward has had some recent injury luck. He hasn't been injured really since 2018, 2017. So yeah, if they were both healthy all the time, I definitely consider them for this spot. But because you can't rely on them, I don't think you can put them as the best duo right now.
Yep. It's tough with these two, right? Because obviously there's a bunch of other teams with good safeties, but I don't necessarily know another team that has 2 really good safeties. Now, obviously there are teams that have like Steelers have Minka, and the Seattle Seahawks they have Jamal Adams, but there necessarily isn't a team that has 2, really really good safeties. And I think Jimmy Ward and Bo Jaquaski are really good safeties. But my main issue with saying that they're the best safety duo in the NFL is that most of them just can't stay healthy, right? And mainly it's just Jaquaski Tart, in my opinion, because he just can't stay healthy. Now Jimmy Ward, he does stay healthy, but he also gets injured sometimes. But with Jaquaski Tart, he was injured this offseason. I think not in like training camp. I think he had turf toe, so he didn't play in the preseason. I'm happy he's back in the regular season, but it's just that both of these guys, they just can't stay healthy. So I can't necessarily say they're the best safety duo in the NFL, but I would definitely say that they're up there. they're if they're one of the best safety duos in the NFL. They're somewhere 2 or 3 in top 5. I would say easily top 5 best safety duo, but I can't necessarily call it number 1 because both of these guys have injuries.
For sure.
Well, moving on to 49ers versus Packers game preview.
Oh
Would you like
yeah,
to start
this should
them
be
off?
this should be an interesting game for sure. Let's start with the 49ers defense versus that Packers offense. Obviously, that Packers offense was electric last night against the Lions. Aaron Rodgers is excellent as always. Aaron Jones looks really good. That the receiving options Aaron Rodgers has. I love that tight end they have, Robert Tonyan. I think they have good secondary, tertiary receiving options, but they have a very lackluster offensive line, and they lost David Bakhtiari. Obviously, that's the big thing everyone's been talking about. But overall, they lost Corey Linsley. They're starting 3 rookies, I believe, in their interior guard or left guard, center, right guard are all brand new guys, rookies. So this is obviously the part of the team you want to attack for the 49ers. Now, the tough part about that is that the 49ers don't have many corners healthy right now, and they're starting a 5th-round rookie, Diamador Lenore, who's looked very good. He's played very well. He's gotten some excellent coverage grades, and he hasn't really allowed many big passes except for the 91-yarder. Outside of that, he's looked very, very good. But yeah, I think it's Varuna.
I would not. I wouldn't know how to try to attempt this. Okay, like this is pretty hard.
I could attempt, but I don't want to embarrass myself. So I'll give Amin an attempt.
And I'm good. I'm good, man. I'm good. I just don't want to embarrass myself either because this is a pretty hard name. Okay, I'm not the first name we all know Runa, but like the last name I don't know. But
No, but yeah, this 49ers. I like this matchup for the 49ers defense, and I think they're gonna be Aaron Rodgers is gonna test Diamador Lenore for sure. He's gonna test Josh Norman for sure. And I just want to see how these corners hold up and if the safeties are able to make up for the lack of depth that we see at corner right now. If Jimmy Ward and Jaquaski Tart are able
I'm
to
not
put
even
away
gonna try.
some plays, if they're able to um if they're able to take away some of those big plays and control the game, then I think the 49ers can win this game. Now let's go over to the 49ers offense. This 49ers offense should run the ball, and they should run the ball down Green Bay's throat. But they need to be careful about what they do in the passing game. Specifically, they shouldn't just target Amin, and they shouldn't just target Debo. They shouldn't just they can't rely on Debo as their number 1 guy, because if you do that against Jair Alexander, you're going to be asking for problems. So I think the
That's not
49ers
correct. Debo Samuel. I will say Debo Samuel will definitely not have a 100-yard game against Jair Alexander because Jair Alexander is the second best cornerback in football, and he showed that last year. Not obviously Jalen
excellent
Ramsey's
guy.
the best, but he's the second
Excellent
best
guy.
football.
Yeah,
Lockdown.
and I think for, the 49ers, can they win this game? Sure, I see the path for them winning this game. My problem is that you're relying on those corners a little more than I would like them to. And I think problem I run into is if the game's close, if the 49ers and the Packers are keeping the game within a touchdown of each other, at the end of the game, if it's a duel between Aaron Rodgers and Kyle Shanahan versus Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm going to take Aaron Rodgers. And that's the reason I'm picking the Packers, is that I think this will be a close game. And I think unless the 49ers are able to just run the ball like they did in the NFC Championship game and get 7 yards per carry or something like that, I really don't know if they can hang with this Green Bay team and just play ball control the entire time, because Aaron Rodgers is so explosive, and they're going to be, unless they just got up big early, I really struggle seeing the path for them to just outright win this game. Now, could the Packers make some mistakes? Could 49ers get good pressure with Nick Bosa, with those backup offensive linemen, with that lackluster offensive lineman? Sure. But because Aaron Rodgers is so excellent, I don't think you can discount him. And as much as that offensive line is a big question mark for the Packers. I think all the 49ers collective question marks, the running backs, who's going to be playing? They don't have anyone right now who's healthy. Corner situation, like I've been saying. I just don't think it's going to be enough against the Packers, and I don't know if they have quite enough to beat Green Bay. Even though this is a very good team, this is a very good 49ers team. Unless they just run away with the game within the first 2 quarters, I don't see them beating Green Bay.
Now, I disagree with you here. I think the Niners are going to beat Green Bay. Now, obviously, the run game isn't as good because we don't have Mostert. It's not as good as 2019, or it's not going to be as good as it was in the NFC Championship game in 2019. But here's why I will say we're beating Green Bay, right? Now, I don't think the run game is going to get 7 or 8 yards per carry. I think the run game is going to be solid. But my biggest reason why the Niners are going to take this is because the offensive line for the Packers, number one, because the offensive line, like if you just look at the offensive line when we played them in 2019, you have David Bakhtiari who's not playing. You have guys like Brian Beluga who got big contracts the same offseason. Corey Lindsey, also a guy that's now played for the Chargers, who got a $60 million contract. He's not playing for He's not playing for the Packers anymore. So Aaron Rodgers' offensive line isn't that good, right? So you have Nick Bosa. Now Nick Bosa's healthy, and he had a 2-sack game last week. I think Nick Bosa is gonna have a huge game again this week. If not, I think he should have at least 2 sacks, if not more, against a rookie offensive lineman for the Packers. What also is Darius Smith isn't playing for the Packers defense. He's on IR, so he's not going to be playing against the Niners. So as much as, yes, Aaron Rodgers is good, their Packers offensive line isn't as good, and the Packers defense isn't as good as it once was in last year, or it is in 2019. In Monday Night Football, they made Jared Goff look like Montana in the first half. Like, Jared Goff was balling out in the first half. Like, he was amazing in the first half. Now, obviously, he didn't do it in the second half. But that's the thing, right? That defense last year had a different defensive coordinator. Now you have a new defensive coordinator who came from the Rams. That defense hasn't been looking as good. The offensive line has question marks, especially with that Bakhtiari being there. On top of that, the defense is going to struggle more because you don't have Zadarius Smith. I think the Niners are going to take this one. I really do. Because of obviously, the Niners do have question marks in their cornerback position. And obviously, if they can score with Jimmy because we don't have Mostert. But there's just so many things on the Packers offense. Like, if you limit Aaron Rodgers' time to throw the football, Aaron Rodgers struggles. If you give time to Aaron Rodgers and let him sit back in the pocket, Aaron Rodgers will torch. But if you pressure Aaron Rodgers, which you've seen before, the Niners did in the 2019 NFC Championship game, if you pressure Aaron Rodgers, you can really shut down Aaron Rodgers efficiently. So that's what I think they will do, especially without Bakhtiari being there. I think the Niners are going to take this one.
Yeah, we'll see. It's going to be a great game for sure. Good Sunday night matchup.
Yep. Well, last topic, quick score prediction. Well, any prediction for the score? What you got a score prediction?
I am going to predict. Gosh. I'm going to say Packers 31, 49ers 21. That's my prediction.
Damn. Okay. Fine. I see how it is. Ben.
Packers are going to put up points.
Dude, I feel like Ben is just sad because of the Florida State losing. So he's like, the Niners are gonna get destroyed. They're gonna get absolutely destroyed. I'm like, all right, Ben, fine, but no, I got the Niners winning this one. I would say, I got the Niners 28, Packers 24. I think it's gonna be a close matchup, but I got the Niners winning it.
Yeah, it should be a close game for sure, but I'm taking the Packers just because I'm giving that edge out to Aaron Rodgers.
Hey man, Aaron Rodgers is a bad man, just like Stephen A. Smith says all the time.
He's a bad man
right there. Okay, you don't want to mess with him.
Bad man.
Yeah, but the last topic before we end the show. Now I know this is a Niners only show, but breaking news came in today. Justin Fields is the starter, not the starter full time, but he is starting against the Cleveland Browns this Sunday, and he's going up against one of the toughest defenses, one of the best defenses in football. So I really want to see how well he does. But what was your initial reaction when you found out that Justin Fields was the starter?
I didn't have much of a reaction in that. It seemed like Andy Dalton wasn't going to play. This was kind of the expectation all week. I guess I'm more concerned about that whole ruining the quarterback too early thing with Justin Fields. I believe in Justin and Justin Fields' ability. I believe in in Fields for sure, but I don't believe in the Chicago Bears team in particular, and I don't believe in the infrastructure that Nagy has and this staff, and yeah, I think it's going to be tough. So I think Justin Fields is going to struggle against the Browns. I think this is an excellent defense. They're going to do a lot of things to try and confuse him, and there's a lot of disguises they're going to use. I think they're going to get a lot of pressure on him as well. And I think that's the tough part for Fields is I don't know if we can really give him the full evaluation this weekend because his offensive line is so lackluster and he doesn't – I mean, people, Allen Robinson's great, David Montgomery's fun and all that. They're good for fantasy. Beyond that, they don't really have great playmakers. I mean, Darnell Mooney is their next best playmaker. And I just think this is a team that doesn't have all the pieces around it. And I think Fields will do well, but I don't think it's going to look great, honestly. But then again, like I said, you got to grade this with a curve because there is such a massive matchup disadvantage for him. I really do believe so. I don't think he's going to look awesome. And I think he's going to struggle a ton versus the Browns. So I wish him the best. I think he's going to be a good quarterback. He has a great future ahead of him for sure. But I don't think it's going to look pretty this weekend in particular.
I mean, I don't think it's gonna look pretty, but I think Justin Fields will definitely do a better job than Andy Dalton would if he's a starter. Because obviously Andy Dalton, he just hasn't won games with the Bears. He's 0-2 with the Bears right now. He hasn't been looking good. I definitely think Justin Fields will do better. And to answer Raymond's question, I think it's over because Justin Fields' biggest strength is his legs, right? So I think Justin Fields will easily have over 50 yards rushing because that's just what Justin Fields does. But I think he's gonna throw an interception or two, right? Because one thing that we've seen in college is that when you put pressure on Justin Fields makes bad decisions. He really does. He tries to force the ball in tight coverage, or he makes bad decisions. So I don't think he's gonna win the football game. I don't think he's gonna win against the Browns. I think he'll look better than Andy Dalton, that's for sure. But he's gonna have his struggles because he obviously is a rookie, and that defense is just so good. And if they bring pressure on Justin Fields will struggle.
For sure. And I think he'll do well, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, Gavin has a question. I mean, the dream is Alex Mack going to have the same impact on the team that Emmanuel Sanders had on the offense in 2019. I say no. Now, the reason I say no is because with the 2019 team, Deebo Samuel was a rookie. He was doing fine, but we really needed a wide receiver at the time. Like, we really needed a wide receiver. We had a cornerback. We had a solid offensive line, but we really needed a wide receiver. And that's why Emmanuel Sanders, I think he had a huge impact because he was that guy that we really targeted a lot. He was that, that wide receiver number one just coming in from Denver. He was a veteran. He brought the leadership. With Alex Mack, we had Trent Williams already, right? So it's one of those things where he helps the offensive line, but he's not going to have the same impact because we already have, we have some solid guys like Laken Tomlinson. We have some solid players, so we have Trent Williams already. So I don't think it's as big as an impact as it when we had Emmanuel Sanders on the team.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I think, I still think the upgrade from the center they had last year to Alex Mack, huge upgrade. But I don't know if it's quite that Emmanuel Sanders effect that we saw in 2019, like Amin said.
Yep. Well, Pino Banking wanted to boost some Mike Chardol.
Hey, Chardol, just get some headphones, man. Get some good headphones, and we'll.
Yeah, we already can see the answers now. He's like, nah, I'm not good at the mic. But well, that basically wraps up the show. Show. I appreciate all you guys watching. This show. We got at once we got 17 people up in here, so I appreciate all the support. If you haven't already, go subscribe to Ben's channel. He does Channelytics. That's one of his most popular things, Channelytics. He'll be back next Monday, I think, with Vinny on his channel. Yes. So go subscribe to his channel. Go follow him on Twitter. The links are in the description. And if you're not subscribed to my channel already, go subscribe to my channel. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. And I'm trying to get to 500 subscribers. And I'm trying to reach 1K before the end of the season. So I appreciate everybody watching. Please like and subscribe. Go like and subscribe to Ben's channel. I appreciate everybody watching. And me and Ben will be back next Wednesday, same time, 2:30 PST. I appreciate everybody watching. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.